Well, hey, everybody. It's Monday. Happy Monday, everyone.
Yep.
Hopefully you guys had a good weekend. We had a pretty decent one, I guess. I don't really remember much of it, but you know what I mean. That means it was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's time for us to do a movie review. Now, I think that we said on Friday that we were either going to do this movie or Dune Part 2.
Yeah.
We haven't gone to see Dune Part 2 yet. We did rewatch the first Dune over the weekend in preparation for seeing the second one.
I remembered it,
yeah. So we are going to see it sometime this week. We just didn't have time today.
Yeah.
So we had a backup though, in the form of The Cell from 2000, which I think we had brought it up on maybe one of our older movie reviews, and you had said that you liked it, and I was like, yeah, I remember liking it.
I saw it when it came out.
And so I bought him the Blu-ray for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And we watched it a couple of days ago.
It didn't disappoint. It was actually better than I remembered it. The movie's aged very well. It's a movie very much kind of like another older movie called Dreamscape, about going into people's dreams. It's kind of like that, mixed with Michael Crichton stuff like Coma. It homages that a little bit, and it's got what today would kind of be an all-star cast. It's got Jennifer Lopez. She's looking great in it, and in the dream sequences, she's just gothed out as hell. She looks really fucking cool in it. She's like a goth fucking queen in the dreams of a serial killer. And then a serial killer is played by the guy who played Kingpin, or he played Kingpin in the Netflix Daredevil series. He also played what was it? Fucking Baby Huey. No, what was the guy's name in Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah.
What was that? What did they call that guy?
It's Vincent D'Onofrio is the actor's name.
Yeah. What was the name of that character that he played in Full Metal Jacket?
Well, shit. Now I can't remember.
Yeah, I forgot his name too. Anyway, the big fat guy. But he's in this, and he plays a serial killer, and he's in real good shape. And he's young in it. That guy fucking
Private Pile says
Private Pile, that's what they called him, yeah. He's real good looking in this. It took me a while to go, man, that guy's, he looks familiar, but I couldn't place him. And then I realized, oh yeah, that's Pile, that's Kingpin.
Yeah.
He's got hair and everything.
I always thought there's something like weirdly, we've talked about this before, there's something weirdly sexy about Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah, he fucking, as Kingpin, man, he fucking sold that.
Even character. When he like had to bulk up and like be super fat for roles and stuff like that, he's still there's still something kind of sexy about him.
Fucking his role as Kingpin was some of the greatest work of all fucking times. He's one of the greatest fucking super villains of all times. I just thought he was just a very credible, multifaceted character. He was a bad guy, but he kind of had a soft spot to him, you know. He was doing bad shit to protect the woman that he loves. It's a great character, man. Anyway, he's in this. And then who's the guy that played the cop? That wasn't
Vince Vaughn. That's Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn. I was going to say Ruffalo, but it wasn't
Mark
him.
Ruffalo. No.
Yeah, it wasn't him, but it's Vince Vaughn. And it's a cool flick. It's about this serial killer who is drowning these women in this automated cell. It had glass.
It's
windows.
A very complicated setup.
Yeah, real complicated setup with video cameras. And he put him in there, and it was all on a timer, and over time it would slowly drown and fill the cell full of water. Well, they captured him, but during the capture, he had some kind of seizure, and he went into a coma.
Yeah.
So they couldn't talk to him, and they knew he had a captive somewhere.
Yeah.
Who was going to die in this cell. So they used this experimental technology to do a mind-to-mind link, because they were using it for therapeutic purposes on other people, but now the FBI is going to use it, or going to tell this company to use it on this serial killer to go into his mind and contact him and figure out where this victim is. Yeah. And they send Jennifer Lopez into there because she's the girl that I don't remember what the name of the character was, but they sent her. Catherine, that's right. They sent her in there to understand his world and try to figure out where that girl is. And so it's weird. She's not going into his dreams. She's kind of going into his dreams while he's in a coma, and she's in the mind of a serial killer. And while she's in there, she kind of has to conform to his rules. And while she's in there, she appears like that beautiful gothic, kind of weird Chinese-looking princess. And he's a king. He's an emperor in his own fucking world. He's doing tortures on people. His victims are all there. He's got them like animated puppets, like in a gory display. It's just a great flick. I liked it. It was very retro, but in a good way. It's a modern movie of the late 90s, so it's pretty good special effects, good storytelling, and but it's kind of traditional in the way that the story's kind of told and the way it's laid out, which I like those because they're not confusing to me. Just really good. And now sometimes you get confused about whether or not somebody's dreaming or not, in a couple places, but badass flick, man. If you like Dreamscape, you'd love it.
Yeah, I have seen this because essentially, and this isn't a ding on the movie, essentially the movie is the same story as Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to catch a serial killer who has a captive, and, Clarice Starling is going into the mind of another serial killer to possibly find out where this woman is. But in this movie, she's literally going inside his psyche.
Yeah.
Through this kind of like sci-fi technology to figure out where it is. But it's essentially the same story as that. So, and I have seen this movie called Silence of the Lambs meets Dreamscape. So a lot of people have pointed out these similarities to Dreamscape, which we did a review of Dreamscape not too long ago, and that's actually kind of loosely based on a novel that came out in the 60s. So the idea of like going inside someone's mind like that, and especially going inside the mind of like a serial killer or something like that, is not new. So this wasn't original to this movie, but I think this was really well done because there had been a lot of thrillers based around serial killers like in the 90s, and I kind of feel like this was a cool spin on that.
Yeah. It homages Dreamscape.
The
villain becomes a serpent, and the serpent looks kind of like the serpent from Dreamscape it also looks kind of like the serpent from Lair of the White Worm for a little bit too. I think some of the weird dream images from Lair of the White Worm are some of the dreams look like something out of Lair of the White Worm, if you've ever seen that movie.
Which is a Ken Russell movie.
Yeah.
That movie's crazy. We reviewed that. It's actually based on a Bram Stoker novella.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ken Russell directed that. And he's real big on weird ass imagery too. Like look at Altered States and shit like that. So I kind of feel like this movie, like I said, came out in 2000. Now, it was directed by Tarsem Singh, who usually just goes by his first name, Tarsem. This was his feature film debut, but as most people may or may not know, I'm not really sure, he was known for doing music videos before this. Most famously, he directed the iconic video for R.E.M's Losing My Religion, and if you watch this movie, it will become very apparent to you that it is the same director, because there is a very similar look. Now, this movie, I kind of feel like it's weird because I was looking at some contemporary reviews of it and like some modern reviews of it. This movie seems, I don't want to go so far as to say it's polarizing, but it does get mixed reviews. And it got mixed reviews at the time. Although weirdly, Roger Ebert fucking loved this movie. He gave it 4 out of 4 stars. He said he thought it was one of the best movies of the year. He's like, I know a lot of other critics, I hated it, but I don't get that. It's like, I thought it was fantastic. So it's like, I don't know. The main criticism I saw when it came out, it was financially successful. I think it cost $30-ish million to make, and it made like 100-something million back. So it was very successful at the time. I think the main criticism that I saw, like most people were like, oh, the imagery in this is beautiful. I mean, no one would argue that this is like one of the most gorgeous looking movies that's ever made, like the imagery in it. I think some people that didn't like it thought that it was too much style over substance is what they thought it was. Like they thought it was like, oh, the movie thinks it's way deeper than it is, or the characterization isn't deep enough or something like that. I'm not really sure I agree with that.
It's just a movie.
Yeah, and honestly, like some of the imagery in this, even though I saw a lot of people, it's funny, I was watching like some reviews of this and reading comments about it, and more than one person in the comments said, I must have seen this as a kid and I didn't know what movie it was, but like images from it like stuck in my brain all this time. And then like when I happened to see it again when I was older, they were like, oh my God, that's where that fucking image was from. Yeah. One of the most iconic images from this is when she kind of goes into the serial killer's mind and all those glass panes come and like cut that horse into pieces.
She finds a horse, yeah.
Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but that's based on a modern art piece by Damian Hirst.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it. I think his was actually a cow, but it was kind of cut into pieces. But so there's a lot of imagery in this that is based on other things. Yeah. It's not just random. Whoa. So that's like the most specific and the closest, because I've seen that Damian Hirst piece and it's very similar to how that looks.
Maybe the serial killer saw that piece too, which inspired that
right
too. So.
There was some stuff in here that was inspired by particular like H.R. Giger things, and particularly I think because Tarsem Singh was directed music videos, he didn't direct the music videos but he really liked like some of the Nine Inch Nails videos, like for Closer, and some of the Marilyn Manson videos and stuff like that have been directed by other people, and he really liked that imagery, so he kind of homaged some of that in the movie as well.
The fashion is really good, especially in the dream sequences. Like J-Lo dressed up as like the Virgin Mary. Mm-hmm. There's some of that when she tried to appear pure. You just got to see the movie to understand what I'm talking about. When she's in the clutches of the serial killer, he's in his dream form. He's kind of like an emperor or a king from the 1500s. His outfit, it looks fucking badass. It's white, and he's got her on this fucking, I think it was just a round bed, but silk.
Kind of. Yeah.
And she's got a big collar on. She's chained up. And she's in this really fucking sexy fucking, kind of like a Chinese empress's kind of outfit, but it's goth. She's got this big fucking metal work of art. It's kind of like a damn face mask on, so she can't talk, I guess. It comes off.
Yeah.
It's just some kind of weird thing that she's wearing. Her hair looks fucking great. She's just very late. In the late 90s, my first wife kind of had that kind of outfits when we would go to the club. Because that was like the futuristic version of goth that was just coming in the late 90s. It looked like that. It ended up being kind of like industrial eventually.
Yeah.
But that was a really good look. And it's kind of, it needs to make a comeback in the scene, actually. The long cocktail type dresses, the long sleeves, the fucking hair that went with the really big hair.
Well, you can do that now, and nobody would look at you weird.
You could do it now, but it's not as common as it used to be.
That's true.
And that dress was kind of see-through.
Yeah.
It had patterns of swirl. It was black on a sheer, swirling patterns. I think you could see through it. Or she had a body stocking underneath it that was...
Yeah, one of those two things. Yeah. It was like hard to tell. But yeah, Hugo said the wardrobe is great. Everything, this is a gorgeous, gorgeous movie. Like, all of the costumes are great. The set design is great. It's just the art direction is beautiful. I will say that the costumes were actually done by the late Eiko Ishioka. She designed the costumes for Bram Stoker's Dracula as well. Because a lot of people have said, that when they put them in the suits, like to do the dream transference science-y thing, I saw a lot of people comment, it's like, oh my God, they ripped off the red armor from Bram Stoker's Dracula. I'm like, she didn't rip it off. It's the same costume designer, like doing that. And I think it's supposed to be muscles is what it's supposed to be, like the suit. And they're supposed to be suspended because, they're supposed to like not, it's like being suspended in water or something like that where they, don't feel any
isolation
outside.
Tank.
Yeah, kind of. But like without, But without having to like actually put them in an isolation tank, which again is kind of like
it's like some out of altered states.
Like I was just gonna say, it's kind of like altered states.
Yeah, but they were hanging from the ceiling by threads. It kind of reminded me of Coma, the movie Coma from Michael Crichton.
Yeah, that did. Yeah, which I think we reviewed that not too long ago too.
And he is in a coma.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought that's where she got that from. But it was kind of like Altered States too.
Yeah, it had a bit of that in there also.
Altered States is Dreamscape. It just kind of homages a lot of classics at that time, the movies that you would have liked, and it just fit right in with a lot of that stuff, like Butterfly Effect and Jacob's Ladder, and it just felt like one of those kind of movies.
Although I kind of feel like this one, it doesn't get talked about much nowadays, but I kind of feel like in a little bit of a way, it was a kind of ahead of its time. It was weird at the time. I remember when it came out. I didn't see it in the theater, I don't think, but I saw it shortly after. And I remember everybody being like, man, that movie was fucking trippy. Like, all of the imagery in it. So even though by that point, like by the late 90s, people had seen, like I said, those Nine Inch Nails videos and Marilyn Manson videos and stuff like that had similar kind of imagery. So I don't think it was quite as shocking or disturbing as it might have been had it been made earlier. But it still stood out a lot. Like, the imagery in it stood out. Yeah.
It had a futuristic look and tone for the time.
Yeah.
But it was still kind of gothic. And it kind of had... it was homaging classics that you would have known, you probably would have seen, you know. I know when I saw it, it reminded me of other movies. But back in those days, you know, I didn't ding it for that. I was just like, okay, yeah.
Well, everything homages other things. Yeah, I mean, you can't really...
Right. I thought it was cool.
And like I said, and Tarsem Singh didn't make any secret about the art pieces that he was homaging. Like, he didn't try to hide that he was homaging like particular art. Like, even that, you know, the scene where Vince Vaughn first goes into the serial killer's mind, like to try to get Jennifer Lopez back out. And there's that weird sequence where there's three women are like sitting there with their mouths open. Yeah, it was, like that.
It was three different ideas of his mom.
Well, that was actually based on a painting, by a particular painting by like a Norwegian artist.
Well, the first one said that the boy had been taken away from her.
Right. Yeah.
That the father took it away. The other one was I don't care. I just popped him out of my womb. And
right.
Then, and then the third one says, no, I hate that kid. He's a monster.
Yeah.
So it was a mother that cared for him, one that was indifferent, one that hated him. So it was the three different versions of it.
Which is interesting because that's kind of, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but maybe I don't think so, because he did use a lot of like kind of religious mythology and stuff like that, or mythological kind of stuff. Is that could be, you know how they always have like the mother goddess and like even the witch goddess like Hecate and stuff like that is always three.
Right.
Is always like three facets.
Well, he didn't know who his mom was.
Right.
So he had three different fantasies of her, or ideas of what she could possibly have been. That maybe she loved him and he was taken from her. The third one said she didn't care.
Right.
And then the last one is she hated him.
She hated him, and
so
she
it was
wanted,
one of those three, and they all existed to him. That's why it was there. I think.
Yeah. And like I said, I kind of feel like that's why I feel like critics that said this, it was style over substance, are kind of off the mark a little bit, because most of the imagery in this did mean something. I mean, whether it was like super deep or not, I mean, that's a different story, but it was referring to something. It wasn't just random, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because I kind of feel like some people complained it's like, oh, he was just putting shocking imagery in there for the sake of being shocking. But, you know, and maybe to an extent that's true, but I don't really think that was entirely the case. I mean, all of the whole point of the story is that this is the serial killer's mind, this is his pathology, this is what his thought processes are like, and he's just trying to illustrate that so that the viewer will understand it, you know what I mean? Yeah. I particularly liked the part where, you know, Jennifer Lopez's character first goes in there, and there's that kind of room with all this sort of like, you know, tanks or cages or whatever, and it has like all his previous victims in there, and they're all kind of like done up like dolls, because that was kind of his thing. Like I said, he had a very specific fetish, and it was because when you learn later, like when she goes back and sees some of the history of his abuse, like at the hands of his father and stuff like that when he was a kid, and one of the things that he was abused for was that his father thought he was effeminate because he liked playing with dolls. So that was something that he fixated on. So that when he became a serial killer later on, he had a fetish for killing his victims, you know, with the water, because that was another thing, you know, another trauma that he experienced that had to do with water.
It had to do with a bird that he had to drown.
That and the baptism deal too, like with the fundamentalists. So he had that. And then, so the thing about it was that, so after he killed them, he would take them and like bleach them and like make them look like dolls, you know what I mean? So in his mind, you know, there's one that had like this weird thing on her face, and there's one that had like all these little strings where she was kind of going like that and stuff like that. So, and one of them had a weird like anime kind of mask on, and it was like kind of creepy. And there's a sequence in this that happens in real life, where he has one of his victims and she's dead and bleached and everything like that, and he lays her out on the table, and he's got this whole elaborate setup with this
hanging by chains.
It's a slab, and he's got like all these piercings in his back that have like rings in him, and then he does like this suspension, and basically like jerks off over the dead body while he's watching that woman die in the tank because he records it.
Yeah, he's above her body.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like it's the same setup in the real world where they're using the dream technology, where they're hanging from their wires to enter his world. Well, he's hanging from his chains a similar way to enter his world, which is his fantasy world.
Yeah,
of fantasizing about these victims. Some people are saying that movie's trying to be deeper than what it is. I don't think it was trying to be deeper than what it was. It was just showing you the inner workings of that dude's mind, and it was doing it in kind of a symbolic way. But it all made sense if you pay attention to the movie. It's not. It wasn't an attempt to be deep. It's just that that's what you would have seen if you were in there. It would have been confusing for you.
And Tarsem said too, like I guess on I think this was on the director commentary or something like that. He said he really liked working with Vincent D'Onofrio because the actor immediately understood that he wanted the movie to be like an opera.
Yeah, what I liked about the movie is that the villain is shown as a multifaceted person. He's a villain, but parts of him are innocent. All right, parts of him are a child that's trying to escape his evil.
Yeah,
and not only does what's her name, Elizabeth? No,
Catherine.
Catherine, yeah. Not only does Catherine save the victim that's being held in the fucking cell, she ends up saving the serial killer too by killing him. He has to be killed.
Yeah, essentially putting him out of his misery. Yeah. Because she realized that he was too far gone.
Yeah, he had to, but he asked her to kill him. So, it was kind of, and she did it kind of like as a mercy kill. I thought it was a cool flick.
Which, like I said, they did link that in with earlier. Like, she pulls, at the end, she's been in his mind, and at some point she gets, because they explained, it's like, well, this is really dangerous to do, because if you are pulled into someone else's psyche and you momentarily forget that that's not reality, then they can affect you in the real world. So that does end up happening to her while she's inside his mind, briefly before they send Vince Vaughn in there, and he's able to like snap her out of it.
Yeah.
But then later she wants to draw him
into her mind, so
it'll be on her home turf, so she has more power, control over the situation. And once she does that, she kind of is able to speak to not only the child version of him who represents his innocence, obviously, but also the adult version of him that's not the monstrous, like, idealized version of him. Because he has a bunch of different monster versions of himself, which my favorite being that kind of, like, emperor one where he pulls that big drape. Yeah. Like that purple drape off there. That's fucking great. I love that.
Him. It's like his big
I love that shot.
And he walks forward and it fucking pulls it behind him. It's the size of a damn football stadium.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Because you think my ego's big? This motherfucker's ego in his fucking dream is fucking gargantuan. He's a fucking emperor.
Yeah, he makes Tom look humble by comparison.
He's the emperor fucking serial killer demon, basically. He can, and if you're in his mind, he's got you. Yeah, it's pretty good. And he liked J-Lo when she showed up. He decked her out as his goth princess and kept her on a fucking chain, and she looked on. She was in his world.
Yeah.
She submitted to it. She got mesmerized with it. She became kind of bad, but she snaps out of it.
Yeah, it didn't really take much to snap her out of it, honestly. Like, Vince Vaughn gets in there. He gets his intestines pulled out. That's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But he's able to. You know what I heard, and I don't know if this is true or not. You know the scene where Vince Vaughn goes into his dream world and tries to snap her out of it because she's been sucked into the whole situation.
Into the whole fantasy, yeah.
And so he goes in there and he's trying to like convince, he's getting his intestines pulled out like on a spit or whatever. It's
a medieval torture. They would get your guts, they'd put it on
and they just pull them out.
And then they'd wind it up out of you.
Yeah.
Medieval fucking white people were a fucking trip, man.
Just think how much more progress they would have made, like, for making everyone's life better if they hadn't just their thoughts hadn't been consumed with thinking up bullshit like that. That just makes me so sad. Like, all of that wasted intellectual power. It's like
certain places at certain times.
I know, but it's just like they're like they could have used that intelligence and that cleverness to like come up with good shit, but it's like, no, let's come up with like even more fucked up ways to like torture people.
People were bad.
Awesome.
People were bad back then.
I mean,
yeah, according to the history.
That makes me so sad. The human race is just so disappointing.
You had to be worse than them to keep them under control.
So disappointing.
They wouldn't listen. You had to fucking do things to them to get them to obey. They wouldn't listen to you.
They wouldn't listen.
Fuck no.
But yeah, so
they made you smell dead things. They would do things like that.
Although people nowadays still do that. This tastes terrible here.
Smell that. Yeah,
I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
What did you just say? I take your word for it. It's fine.
They did fucking good, disgusting shit at the table. They didn't fucking bathe. They didn't wipe anything.
Blowing snot rockets.
Blowing snot and shit. Medieval fucking people were nasty.
Yeah. Scratching their ass, then they'd reach over and take your bread.
Yeah. Just there's whole books on what those people did.
Oh my god, so gross. They didn't know any better. That's why they were fucking diseased all the time.
Yeah, they were pretty wild. They were feral.
Even animals are cleaner than that.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, so
to keep them in order, you had to scare the shit out of them.
So that's kind of a roundabout way, like I said, because Vince Vaughn was getting his intestines pulled out. But that whole scene where he's getting that pulled out and he says to her to snap her back out of it, like he's trying to remind her like of a trauma from her childhood. So he brings up the fact that it's her little brother, right? Her little brother was in a car crash and was in a coma for 6 months and then he died, and that's why she became a child psychologist. I heard that in the original cut of that movie, or the original script, that they were actually that the whole thing that he was going to tell her about was that she had had an abortion in college and felt bad about it, and that was what made her want to be a child psychologist. I don't know if that's true or not, but then they decided, that might be like a little controversial to like put in the movies. They didn't put that in there, so they just changed it for some random, even though in the context of the movie that actually makes a little bit more sense, I guess,
than defending a child,
than just like a random kid, like her brother being killed in a car accident, which really didn't tie in. So that actually, I don't know if that's true or not, but that actually makes sense. Like from a narrative standpoint, the abortion angle would make more sense with the theme of the story.
Yeah, and also she's helping one child, remember, with his mental problems.
Yeah.
And she's helping another child who is a serial killer. In his mind, he's a child.
Yeah.
So she's a child helper. Remember, or trying to be. And she's appearing as the Virgin Mary.
I guess she was like a saint.
A saint, yeah.
I guess because didn't she see that card that had the saint? Because she was trying to hone in on
our mother of the lilies, or our Lady of the Lilies.
Yeah, something like that. Because I think she was trying to appeal to his innocence by utilizing the Catholic imagery that he had grown up with to make her more approachable and to make her mind less scary to him and like more welcoming. So I think that she was using things from his mind that she had picked up.
It was Our Lady of the Lilies.
Yeah, something like that. So it wasn't the Virgin Mary. It was a specific saint.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, I think Our Lady of the Lilies was a protector of the children, I think.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up. Like I said, it
children
does.
That had drowned and weird shit. Like
a lot of the imagery.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
the children that had drowned.
That's probably
who it is.
Because, like I said, a lot of the imagery in this is not random. It's actually like they do come up with a lot of. I was reading somewhere that some of the imagery was right from the Book of Enoch.
Yeah, possibly.
Which maybe it could have been.
Yeah, some people are dinging this movie, making fun of it. Zach says it just looks good in the trailers. No, the movie was good. Fucking watch it again. It's aged very well. It's just a fun movie to watch. It's interesting. It's a cop movie, kind of like Silence of the Lambs, mixed with Dreamscape.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly. If I had to like just give an elevator pitch for it, like that's what I would call it.
Yeah, and J-Lo looks awesome in this too, man. She's in her late 20s. You know, she's in her physical prime. I didn't remember her being that pretty, but she was really pretty. I remember her ass being bigger than it is, though. By today's standards, it's just a normal butt. But
that's what I mean.
Back in those days, she was known for having a big ass.
Well, here's the
you're just like.
I always thought that was so weird because even at the time, like when she was real big and everybody was talking about that big old butt and everything like that, I'm like, her butt is really not that big. It's a nice butt. It just wasn't.
Yeah, it was
that
just,
big.
They were coming out of the 70s and the 80s where
everyone was rail thin.
Those really super skinny.
So even a normal size ass.
Yeah,
like,
normal was considered to be big. I remember girls fucking, "Mom, my ass is too big," and fucking we'd be in high school. Me and Steve would look at each other like, "What the fuck is she talking about? What are you talking? That's just juicy." But, we liked it, fucking funny, man.
And there is a scene in this where she's relaxing at home, like smoking some weed or whatever, and goes to her fridge to get something out of the fridge, and they have a nice shot of her in her underwear. Well, because that's probably in the. They said, well, if we're gonna make a movie with Jennifer Lopez in it, we have to showcase the ass at some point, otherwise no one's gonna go see it. Well, you know what I mean. So, but she actually did.
She can act.
She did a good job in this. I thought.
Yeah, she can act. She does well. She does well in it.
I mean, I think. Now, was it after this that she did some rom-coms, I feel like, after this.
I don't know.
Maybe slightly before this.
This is the only J-Lo movie I think I've seen.
She's been in a fuck ton of movies. But I feel like after either slightly before this or slightly after this, I can't really remember the timeline, but I think she mostly started doing rom-coms.
Yeah.
But this is actually kind of a serious role. She's not showy in it or anything like that. She's pretty restrained, but I think that's good, for the character. But honestly, I really think Vincent D'Onofrio steals the show in this. Has there ever been... I have never seen a bad performance from him. I've seen him in a bunch of stuff, but everything I've seen him in, he's always just riveting.
Yeah, every time I see him, he's fucking slamming.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah. I love him.
Yeah.
We need to see more movies with him in it. Yeah, I'd like to see more of him, yeah. But I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff with him in it, but...
Yeah. If any of you people out there are fucking into that dude, this is the movie you need to see. He's... I don't want to say he's in his prime, because a man can get into his prime. He's got different primes. You know what I mean? There's a prime you have when you're in your teenage years, your 20s, your 30s. There's always a prime. Guys have several primes. But in terms of, 30s, early 30s, fucking he's in his fucking prime. He looks great. He's good. He goes bare-chested a lot. And he's in decent shape. He's not the fat guy from fucking Full Metal Jacket. He's a different dude. He's got a really good-looking face. He's got long hair and everything in this. And then when you see him as the Emperor in the dreams, he looks even fucking more sinister, man. He looks great.
Yeah, like I said, you can tell he really leaned into this role, and you could say he went over the top with it, but I don't think so. Because I think that he's supposed to be playing the godlike personification of this serial killer's ego. So it's going to be over the top. It's going to be operatic, and I think that's what the director wanted. He wanted it to look...
You're in his kingdom.
Right. He wanted it to look like an opera. He wanted it to be super over the top, because that's what a serial killer
is going to be thinking of himself.
That's how he's going to be thinking of himself. So I think it's really well done, because you said, there's a lot of different facets of him in there. He has a lot of different characters, and he still has the child him in there. Running around, and there's even a version of him that looks regular, looks like he looks in real life. Yeah. And kind of...
and he's kind of fucked up about the whole thing.
And he's kind of fucked up about the whole thing, he's kind of in the middle, you know what I mean? And then he has these other, he has one that kind of looks like a devil with, his hair, all, devil horns, and then he has, the king, they call it, King Carl is what they call that character, or King Starger, because that was his last name. So, because all of his characters have names, apparently, according to. But yeah, King Starger is the one with the drapes and everything.
Me and Jen are going to do, we're talking about doing this for Halloween. I'd be that fucking, the devil. You running shirtless with the damn samurai pants and the fucking horns. Jen can get in that goth outfit, the fucking wire mask.
Yeah, we were thinking about, because when we were watching this movie, I said, oh, bro, I was like, these are going to be our Halloween costumes this year. And, because honestly, the one where she's in... when she gets sucked into his world, and she has the metal mask on her face, which he takes it off after a few minutes. It's just an oval with a cross in the middle and some chains. Yeah. And then she just has hair that's black and halfway down and then red. Yeah. And then it's just a dress. It's long sleeved and it's long. It's floor length, and it's just kind of got black swirls on it. And then there's this collar that's either, I can't tell if it's made of leather or vinyl.
I think it's vinyl. It's PVC.
It looks and it's real shiny red.
It looks like metallic red PVC.
Yeah, we might have to make that, because I was looking for it.
Somebody easy to make,
somebody made one on Etsy, but it doesn't look exactly the same as the one in the movie, and it's $300. Yeah. So I was like, Somebody also made an exact replica of that metal mask on Etsy, but it is $500, and I'm just like, I'm gonna make that probably. Yeah. Everything else I could probably get. I even saw some dresses.
It's just heavy gauge wire.
Not exactly the same as hers in the movie. I couldn't really find one with that exact swirly pattern, but there were some that were similar enough that it would pass. Like I found some on Shein that for like, $14 or something like that. So I might get one of those. I'm gonna keep an eye out like as Halloween gets closer.
There's gonna be no way to get that material.
Probably not.
Long out of pattern.
Yeah,
and it was probably custom at the time.
Well, I even looked up, Eiko Ishioka. Yeah. Who was the costume designer. Yeah. And I was like, has anybody done any dupes like of her stuff? But I don't think The Cell was a popular enough movie that people were making dupes of it. I even looked up to see if anybody else had done the cosplay. I did find one or two photos of people that had done the cosplay, and actually I found one photo of a couple that had done what we were talking about doing, like her in the red collar and everything, and him in the samurai pants and the hair horns and stuff like that. But it wasn't that terrific, although she did look like she had found the same dress. So
I didn't know there was a new Magnificent Seven.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, he plays one of the guys in there. People are saying what a great actor he was. Yeah, and how good he was in. They said, well, he was in Daredevil. Yeah.
Yeah. We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, I fucking watching him as Kingpin, man. That's where I really got a lot of respect from. That's like one of his biggest body of work, and I was like, man, this is the best supervillain of all times because I can relate to him. I kind of want him to win.
Well, he was kind of a sympathetic character.
Yeah, he was kind of a good guy in a way.
I mean, even though he was a villain, obviously.
He was trying to fix the city, but he was trying to do it his way. He was trying to protect his woman that he loved.
He was a really, he was a really good villain.
Yeah.
Like I said, because he wasn't just like cartoonishly evil. No. He had an understandable reason for what he was doing and a relatable reason.
Yeah, he was fucking big. And he had I'll tell you what, that guy, what's his name, D'Onofrio?
Vincent D'Onofrio.
D'Onofrio?
Yeah.
I said D'Onofrio. D'Onofrio, yeah. He has a very good control of his voice. Super good. If you go back and listen to Kingpin, it's hard to do that voice.
Yeah.
He's like a very ominous sounding voice.
I mean, he's easily, other than the visuals in The Cell, Vincent D'Onofrio is easily my favorite part of. I mean, he's great in this. And he's great, too. He kind of has like a really good range in this movie because he has to play the serial killer Carl Starger in the real world. So he's just kind of like this stooping, creepy, nobody kind of dude.
Yeah.
But then he also gets to play these operatic, monstrous type characters with all these fucking crazy outfits and all this other kind of stuff. So it's like it's a really good performance, but that's still like obviously the same. Yeah.
Cami said that Magnificent Seven was from 2016.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that they had remade that, to be honest. But I'd be interested to see it.
Yeah, I give a shit. I love the movie. I liked it when I first saw it. Seeing it again after so many years, I thought it was even better. And it's just up there with good movies. If you actually ask me, I'd put it in with a lot of the other classics now. I think it's aged very well. There's nothing about the effects, the styling that's fucking cringy or like it all looks good. It still looks good. It all still looks good. There's CG in it, and it's not 100% up to snuff of today, but it doesn't throw you out of the movie.
No,
you still.
Well, okay. Because so much of it is so fantastical.
Yeah. And it's happening in the dream world, so it
doesn't have to look real necessarily. But nothing like stood out to me as being like, oh, well, that doesn't look as good as it used to or anything like that. Well, just because when they're in the dream worlds, which are obviously the best parts of the movie, like every single frame looks like a painting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's beautifully composed and like the
J-Lo's
colors.
The saint, and then she's talking, but the fucking Catholic scroll work starts appearing all around her. And she's talking. It's not the real world.
Yeah, so you can do anything.
You can do anything. Yeah.
Now, I've heard, like, somebody, I think it was High Desert, like, said earlier, it's like the only complaint he had about this movie was that it looked like a music video. And I said, well, that's because Tarsem Singh directed music videos. This was the first feature film that he did. So it does have that music video sensibility, but I don't really...
It fits
yeah, I don't really have a problem with that, to be honest.
Dreams are like music videos?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Mine not so much, but
Depends on what the deal is.
it depends on what kind of dream I'm having. But wait, there was something else I was gonna say, and then I forgot what it was. I think I was gonna comment on something that was there, but maybe not. Maybe not.
Oh, might as well plug this. This is what we got coming next, probably.
Yeah. Okay. So Xanada sent us another movie today.
Yeah, he's been a big contributor to the show.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Mm-hmm.
And he sent us Natural Born Killers.
We haven't reviewed it.
And I was like, we've already reviewed that, right? Yeah, of course we have. But then I looked back at our back catalog and searched. We have not.
Yeah.
I was like, how can that be? I could have fucking sworn. And then I was like, well, maybe we did, but it got taken down or something. But then I looked at my backup in my Dropbox, and it's not in there either. So I was like, we must not have done it, which is crazy to think about. I know we've talked about it. Maybe we talked about it like on a serial killer show, like that, the serial killer case was, this movie was like based on it, maybe. So maybe we kind of talked about it then. But it's like, I could have sworn we've done this, but we haven't. So I guess that'll be the next one we'll do. So we'll either do this one or Doom Part 2. We still need to do Dark City.
Yeah.
Because I gave you that one for Valentine's Day too, and I think you will really like Dark City. I hope I'm not wrong. It's the same. It's Alex Proyas, the same guy that did The Crow.
Okay.
The same director, like the original Crow, not the new one.
Yeah.
And obviously, but I really really like Dark City, and I kind of feel like it's underrated, and I'm kind of hoping that you'll like it too. But we'll see. This movie too, like I said, I kind of feel like a lot of people don't talk about it anymore, and I understand maybe why the reviews are mixed and stuff like that. But rewatching it, I was like, I don't know, I really like this movie. I think it's like really, it looks beautiful. I think it's visually gorgeous. Like the symbolism is really cool. I also have to say, I almost forgot to mention, I really really dig the score.
Yeah.
Which is Howard Shore, who he works a lot with David Cronenberg, I think, and among other things, he's done like a lot of movies. But I really like the score in this movie. It's kind of off the wall, but I think it kind of fits. But yeah, so I thought I'd bring that up too because I really like the music in this.
I think it's a great flick.
Yeah, I do too. Zach says Alex Proyas has a Patreon where he has filmmaking tutorials and BTS stuff. I've messaged him there. It's really cool. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I can't even remember what other movies he's done other than The Crow and Dark City, because those are probably the only two that I've seen. But that's why I was so excited for you to see Dark City, because I thought you'd really be into it. Slasher Fred said, one of the underrated horror movies you should review is the movie Man's Best Friend. Ooh, I kind of remember that one. I saw it one time, but it was like a long time ago. That's about the dog, right? Like
I don't know. Send it to us, we'll do it.
Or, I mean, if not, then I'll just find it on some streaming service and, like, watch it.
Chances are, though, it gets lost in the fucking mix because we got other movies we have to do.
I mean, I try to write stuff down when people recommend it, but I don't always
If you send it to us, we'll remember it, and it will be in line, and we'll do it.
But I will write down Man's Best Friend, though, because, like I said, I do try. And if you have recommended a movie and I forgot about it, I apologize. But I do try to, like, write stuff down. But we get a lot of recommendations, and I sometimes forget. So if you really want us to do something, either send it to us or remind me again, and we'll get around to it. Zach says, I'd love to see you guys review Suddenly Last Summer sometime. I love how it's a drama that's almost a horror movie. Okay, well, let me write that one down, too. I don't remember if I've seen that one or not. I think I have, but it's been a while. So I'm not sure. But I'm going to write that one down, too. And now everybody's going to... Or Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Oh, shit. I watched that in school. Because we read the play, which is by Edward Albee. But that's pretty fun, actually. That's Richard Burton, right? Richard Burton and Elizabeth.
Sober Richard Burton or drunk Richard Burton?
I don't think there was a sober Richard Burton. Right. So I'm not really entirely sure.
He was from a long line of great British actors.
Great British drunks, I thought you were going to say.
Yes, I said great British actors that can perform drunk. Yeah.
I admire that, honestly. Yeah. I really do.
Yeah. No, he was good when he was drunk.
Them and Oliver Reed.
I could tell he was, and Oliver Reed. You could tell when he's drunk, he's doing good.
Yeah. I mean, gotta love Oliver Reed.
I'm in character. My character would be drunk right now, and I'm drunk.
Method acting.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, I guess we're gonna wrap up the movie review for the evening. So the topic for Wednesday night show, staying with the true crime. We're going to be talking about the Days Inn killer, otherwise known as the I-65 killer, who was a serial killer who, we'll get into it like on the show. But somebody recommended it a while back, and it finally won in the poll, so we're going to be talking about that on Wednesday night, so hopefully you guys can join us for that. Zach says, apparently both Richard Burton and Oliver Reed were considered for James Bond. I can't see it.
It was another era. Yeah.
I don't know. Now I kind of want to see that. Now I kind of want to just briefly go over to the alternate universe where that happened. I would love to see Oliver Reed as James Bond.
Yeah,
that would be
out of the two,
hilarious.
Oliver Reed could probably do a better job.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah, but the thing is that Oliver Reed would have to get in pretty good shape to do James Bond.
And he'd probably be like, "Yeah,"
and he'd be like, "Nah,
you bitches aren't paying me enough."
Yeah. You
know, to make me stop eating.
When Reed was young, he was pretty fit. As he aged, he just started to become kind of a very average build. You know what I mean? And that doesn't fly as James Bond. You have to be dashing. So he'd have to hit that gym, and he wasn't the kind of guy to do that.
He was like, "No, that's gonna cut it. That's gonna cut into my drinking time."
How close is that gym to the bar?
Right, exactly.
That's what he was thinking. Yeah.
He's like, "This is the only exercise I get. Lift in the glass."
Right. Yeah.
Lift in the glass.
He acted.
That's a good workout.
He acted with his face and his voice.
Yeah.
That
was all he needed, man.
That's all he needed.
That was all he needed. But yeah, I would love to see him play James Bond, though. I mean, I know that's not gonna happen now because he's dead, obviously, but I would have loved to see that happen at some point. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up. Thanks you guys for dropping by this evening. Hopefully you enjoyed this review, and we will see you guys again on Wednesday night. We're doing another true crime show, another serial killer, so hopefully you guys can join us for that, and we will see you on Wednesday night. Good.